And Severn, Dan, thank you for coming in. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Very rare appearance, you coming into the Northeast,
Well,
right?
I don't get out much these days, you know.
Yeah, well, but how are you holding up these days?
I'm still killing it.
Still killing it?
Oh, I'm still killing
In
it.
front of live audiences?
Well,
How are you pulling that off?
No. It's I
Okay.
go by a little bit different set of rules right now.
Okay.
What people don't. What's okay? Have you ever watched the movie Fight Club?
Yes.
Mhm.
What's the number one rule of Fight Club?
What was the number
What is
one
it?
rule of
What
fight?
is
You're
it?
the fight guy.
Tell me.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Oh, there you go. That's right. So you
So-
can't talk about what you're doing.
Exactly, but
Dan, how old are you right now?
Wait a minute.
62, going on 63.
And you look like
Well, it's
fantastic.
only because I put in a fresh coat here right now. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
it's like it's everything is white. It's snow white here right now. I mean, eyebrows, mustache, hair. I'm just glad I still have something that I can throw a little bit of product through, and I would actually give a shout out to them, but they're not sponsoring me yet, so we'll work on that.
Look at me name. Well, maybe they'll sponsor us. We'll be all right.
There you go. It keeps the mustache looking dastardly.
Look at you.
Dastardly.
Yes.
Is
Pretty
Muttley coming too? Dick Dastardly over
Muttley.
here. What? Yeah.
Well, dastardly gives you triple points at a crossward puzzle most of the time.
Oh,
So
nice.
So let's jump right into politics. You happy that we have a new president of the United States?
Can I?
He's like, oh.
Oh, listen, you only isolate yourself from half your
I
audience.
like to drive around this one, Dan.
Can we just go right on to the next question, because I don't think there's anything. I like to think of myself as a positive, rather effervescent
Right.
type of individual.
Right.
So I would simply just say, next question, please.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
try to be at least kind.
Yeah.
I try to be kind.
Yeah.
Right now.
Besides, there's nothing positive involved with politics. I got you.
We live in a world right now that there's some people that need to be taken out and publicly flogged.
Oh, yeah, well.
Good old-fashioned publicly flogging
Yeah.
or something like
We'll
this.
discuss
Bring
the-
back some old school stuff.
We'll discuss the list off the air.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, that's
you're from Arizona, right?
Well, no, I'm born and raised Michigan, but I went to college at Arizona State. So I lived for a decade out in Arizona from 76 to 86. First 5 years as a student athlete, and then the second 5 years as a wrestling coach. And then job opportunity opened back up at Michigan State University, and I coached there for another couple of years. So I tell people that the sport of wrestling, I've been involved in now 6 decades. I started back in junior high in 1969, so I've got the 60s, the 70s,
Right.
the 80s, the 90s,
Wow.
2000,
Wow.
2010 and above. Well, now we're into the 2020s and above. It's kind of look like, is dance ever done? Oh, wait to be seen. I don't think I'm done yet, because although I may be 62 going on 63, I don't look it, I don't act it, I don't move it.
That's great.
So,
Now you're from Flint, Michigan, right?
well, again, Montrose, Michigan. I always had to specify that, because a lot of my friends growing up, I went to Montrose Hill McCloy High School. They get mad all the time. Why is it they always say Coldwater? I go, they wanted, where do I live now?
Yeah.
So I say, I hail from Coldwater, Michigan now, but I've only lived there since, I think, 1992 is when I moved to Coldwater, Michigan.
Because you're famous from Michigan, and then also Michael Moore's from Michigan too. What are your thoughts on Michael Moore?
Michael Moore?
Well, again, I make it up. I mean, I hear things about Michael Moore and a few other people, stuff like that. I mean, I'll just say he's a rather interesting cat. I guess. Once again,
Would you like to beat his ass?
Oh, my God!
Or publicly flogged? Publicly flogged again. I mean, those are. I always look at it as we're taking the best of both worlds. We always talk about how unfit a lot of our children are. So let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's take all of our physically unfit kids and let them go out there and do the flogging on those people. So
interesting.
We're killing two birds with one stone. We're giving the
Interesting.
kids some exercise.
Builds
It's
up
good
their
for them,
muscle tone?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That's a good idea.
Fighting, wrestling, acting. You've done all these things. Which one do you like the most?
Well, again, the thing that's been my theme throughout my entire life has been my amateur wrestling career. So I mean, it is the vehicle that has opened up all these other doors. Because what I always tell people, because they tend to get it wrong, my first profession was professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Most people thought I went to the cage fighting type of stuff, and I use that term cage fighting because the mixed martial arts term did not come out about until, like, I think 2004, 2005, 2006, somewhere in that range. And it was a good friend of mine, Jeff Blatnick, that was working with the various athletic commissions, and he's the one that coined the phrase mixed martial arts. These athletes come from such a variety of martial arts background. It might be amateur wrestling, it might be boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, karate, kung fu. There's always some type of stand-up art with a grappling art that was combined. So he was a guy that had to kind of smooth it over, because a lot of your politicians, especially like a Senator John McCain, he was a big advocate of trying to do away with it and looking upon it as a very barbaric sport. And and I sort of became sort of a front man for them, because I was that guy. I don't have tattoo one on my body, and I work with law enforcement, corrections, air marshal, border patrol, militaries. I kind of look like G.I. Joe because I have a Dudley Do-Right chin and I have a mustache. I look like one of them. So it has served me well over the years.
How hard was it going from, the amateur wrestling into something like cage fighting?
Well, I mean, it was the hardest part. The cage fight, not. Professional wrestling, a complete 360. In amateur wrestling, I was great about, in amateur wrestling, you learn to tune out things. And what I mean by tune out, typically I'd be going to countries that a lot of other countries despise the United States.
You experienced this.
Oh yeah, no, they despise the United States, but for different reasons. Again, most of it is because of what type of propaganda machine their government is spewing out about America.
Okay.
I mean, which is, if we want to fast forward to today, and all the propaganda that has been going on for the last 4+ years, and which will endure for who knows how much longer, but
a long time probably.
But it's these other foreign countries, they have experienced this for a great deal of time, so that it was pretty common, as I represented a United States team, to be booed and stuff like this. So I learned to tune out the audience. And we even had to learn to tune out the referees and stuff like that, because typically they were from some part of the communist bloc. And there would always be 3 referees. There would be a main referee on the mat itself, but then there'd always be 2 side judges. In order to actually score points, 2 out of 3 of the judges had to confirm, was that a 1-point takedown? Was that a 2-point conversion here? Was that a 4-point throw? And you had always had 2. There would be a lot of times there'd only be 1 referee calling it, and then as you looked over to one of the side judges, the side judge would be either tying his shoe, looking the other way, stuff like this.
Getting coffee
again.
Okay.
But then, but when the Russian opponent or whatever. Fortunate that you're going to get that rep that came from that communist bloc, they would be getting their points. So to be screwed over, to be booed, was pretty much commonplace. So half the time I said, when you walked out there as an amateur wrestler, you had to not only beat your opponent, but you had to beat 2 out of 3 of the referees on top of that.
Right.
Now, that's a big difference between that and now professional wrestling. You're looking for a certain reaction from that crowd. What is your persona? If you are that heel, I want that negative reception from the crowd. If I'm that baby face, I'm looking for that positive reinforcement, the cheers, the yays, and the whole nine yards like that. The referee is working with all of you.
Sure.
Because they don't want to see this. So they're part of the show. So I had to rewire my brain an entire 360. But what I tell people that my first profession was, I was a professional wrestler first. And the one element that I took away from professional wrestling that served me well in the cage fight world is this psychology.
Psychology.
To know how, when I go to this location, I know how to get that audience to do exactly what I want them to do.